Jets win 32-25. This is the Gangs All Year Postgame Live Show. I'm Ryan Sampson. That's Frankie Vidarini. We appreciate all you fans coming in, joining to watch this. We're going to break down this game, get instant reaction to that. We'll talk about Rodgers Day, Davante Adams Day. We'll talk about the Jets finally getting a win, breaking their losing streak. And we'll discuss the Bill Belichick rumors. He was interested about the Jets job. We'll talk about them interviewing GM candidates, including Louis Riddick and John Robinson this week. We're going to break all that down today on this show with Frankie Vidarini, and I'm Ryan Sampson. Before I get to anything else, Frankie, how you doing, bud?
Ryan, man, I'm feeling great, dude. This team looked like a pretty good team today. Feeling the vibes. We got a nice win. No, you know what, man? We broke this Florida streak, which I like. They've been what? They've lost 12 in a row in Florida, so we needed to break the streak.
Yeah.
And listen, man, players don't tank, right? We've talked about this. We were talking about it with Kaz on your guy on the pod. Players don't tank, so they played. Davante had a big game. The offensive line was awesome. I mean, they're gonna try to win when they're on the field. And Sauce, your boy got a pick at the end there, so we don't have to have this little drought since his rookie season. But
How about that, huh?
Yeah, he needed that. It doesn't matter how you get picks. Nobody cares. At the end of the year, they're gonna look at your numbers and they're gonna see that you got a pick because he hasn't had a pick since his rookie year. But Jets won. I rather they lost, but it is what it is.
So you would have rather had a loss today than the win that they actually got?
Man, I just want a higher draft pick. This season's over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like an impressive win. So I would have.
You didn't think that today was an impressive win?
I don't know, Rye. I'm like 50-50. I saw some things I liked overall, though. I mean, that last drive when Mac Jones went down, I mean, Tony Adams misses that tackle. They're just always finding ways to sort of put themselves in a position to lose football games. And I didn't think today convinced me enough that this unit knows how to win. I mean, that Davante sort of bailed us out today in a lot of ways. Yeah. That's why he's a Hall of Famer. I mean,
Davante bailed him out big time today. Davante Adams had his best game as a Jet today. He went off, absolutely off. So I think it's the reaction for me. Like, listen, I think this is actually a nice win, considering how brutal this season has been for the New York Jets and the fans watching this slop every single week. It's nice to finally get a win, Frankie. I know a lot of people, including yourself, and even sometimes me, it's like, you know what? Care about the draft pick only. We need to lose games. But I hate rooting for losing games. I hate it, man. It kills me inside. I don't like watching my team lose. Obviously, this has been the most dysfunctional season ever, most disappointing season ever for the Jets. But at the end of the day, today was an opportunity where you're facing probably a a bottom three team in the NFL in the Jacksonville Jaguars, roster-wise. You should have won the game, and they did win the game. So credit to them, even though they tried to ruin it at the end. I think the big things you take away are Aaron Rodgers can still sling it when he wants to. Davante Adams looks legit. He goes off for nine catches, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, almost had a third touchdown on that breakdown play in the in the fourth quarter late where the Jets went ahead to take the lead at the end of the game. Those are the two big things for me. The Jets defense is still a mess. You let Mac Jones go off for 294 yards passing, 2 touchdowns.
Crazy, man.
The Jets defensively, I can kill them in a little bit, and I will, but the focus here has to be that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense were able to get something going. It was a stat padding day for Aaron Rodgers, no doubt, throwing for 3 touchdowns, 289 yards himself. Davante Adams putting those yards up and numbers up. That's all good, right? Like those are things that, you know what, that resulted in a win. You beat a team that you were better than. But when you look at it from a bird's eye view, which is I think what you're relating to here, Frankie, this win means nothing, right? The win means nothing in the ultimate 2024 season for the Jets. It's not going to help them propel them moving forward. It's not going to give them a clear picture of how they're going to build this team next year because there's still a lot of unknowns there when it comes to this leadership group and who they're going to hire and how they're going to build this roster and whether they're going to retool or they're going to completely tear it down and rebuild. But today was just nice to finally get a win.
No, it was. I mean, listen, you root for wins, right? Like we're fans. You want your team to win. And winning is good. Winning builds culture. I mean, you want guys like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, offensive linemen like Olu, who had a great game today. You want them to get rewarded for good play. Olu had a great game. Josh Hines Allen did nothing today. They had some players too, Jacksonville on the front line, that had some pressure rates that were pretty high coming into the game. Not today. Tittman played a pretty good game. AVT sort of looked good at times. So it's good to reward good play. And you want to get used to winning. That's the whole point, right? Like these young guys, they want to feel like if they play well, they can win football games. The problem is the draft position. So
I'm going to push you back on the draft position, right? So the Jets only dropped now to the 8th spot after this loss today. One spot,
right?
One spot. And the only team that can slip in front of them possibly is the Chicago Bears, but the Chicago Bears have a 561 strength of schedule. The Jets have a 509. They have the tiebreaker over them because they have a worse strength of schedule. So you're staying in the 8th spot right now. New Orleans almost won that game today, but they're still 5-9, so they have one more win. Miami is 6-8. Like none of these teams you're looking at are going to slip past, like the Jets are going to stay in that 8th spot. So they're most likely going to end up picking top 10 if the rest of the season plays out like how we think it is. They still have another game against the Bills, another game against the Dolphins. So, and they got the Rams coming up who look ridiculous. So those are your last 3 games. Like they should go 0-3, the Jets, the rest of the season. So if you're looking at the tankathon, they're going to probably finish 4-13 this year. And then you just got to start rooting for wins for some of these other teams like Cleveland, New England, the Titans. I don't know. They're a mess too. The Jaguars, I thought, showed some compete and fight today. Maybe they can squeeze out a win here towards the end of the stretch. But the tankathon is showing Carolina might get a win also, mind you. So they're 4. They could hopefully get to 4-11. But right now, the way it's looking right now, Frankie, this feels like how it's going to be draft wise and order wise.
Yeah, I'm sort of looking at it from a perspective of at the end of the year, how many wins you have. I know we only dropped a position today. I was looking at that too. So it wasn't that big of a deal in terms of their position.
In the grand scheme of things, you really didn't do that much hurting your draft position, getting this win.
Yeah. On a weekend basis today, no, it didn't. But I'm looking at it in totality. I think this team could win another game this season, maybe even 2. I mean, they're starting to gel. You see Devontae and Aaron starting to figure things out. Garrett just being on the field. I mean, like the offense is looking pretty good at times.
The passing offense. We didn't run the ball today. Aaron Rodgers led the team in rushing today.
Yeah. Rodgers
6 carries for 45 yards. How the hell does that happen? You have Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis, and Braylon Allen, who Braylon Allen got banged up. But how the hell do you let Aaron Rodgers be the number 1 carrier and rusher on your team?
It's crazy. Did you see what they were saying? Did you see what Schlereth and Myers were saying before the game or during the game too? They were saying that Rodgers was looking at his old highlights and noticing what he used to do. You saw some vintage Rodgers today. I mean, he was getting outside the pocket and more importantly, the O-line was giving him all day. Like shout outs to the offensive line.
Only sacked once today.
Yeah. And he was staying in the pocket for a while. That's the one thing I liked about today. If we're going to look at positives, Rodgers spent a lot of time in the pocket, was trusting his protections, and was waiting for Adams and Garrett and other players to get open down the field, which they did.
Today was mostly Devontae. Garrett only had 3 catches for 56 yards. He did have the touchdown where it was a blown coverage to start the game. But the next after that was Breece Hall, 2 catches, Jeremy Rucker, 1 catch, Alan Lazard had no catches, dropped the touchdown probably there, which is brutal.
I saw that. I was like,
Alan Lazard's back, folks. If you're wondering, he's back on the field. If you haven't noticed, there was the Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers show today. This was, hey, we're still one of the best all-time great wide receiver quarterback connections in the history of this football league, and you saw that today. That's what it was. It was Rodgers Adams, and they took over and they were able to win a football game with those two. You can't win 10 to 12 games with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams the whole season. That's the truth of the matter. And today was just a prime example of Aaron Rodgers going on the field and saying, I'm just going to be vintage Aaron and just show the world that I can pad my stats and I can throw to Devontae and we can find some sick connections. Like, I won't deny that throw to the sideline on third down, and
That was
Devontae
nasty,
drags
dude.
that right foot. I mean, that's vintage right there. That is just beautiful football. And the long touchdown bomb to Devontae, again, perfect throw from Rodgers to Devontae in stride. That is something you've seen their entire career at Green Bay. And that's what we always envision for this potential connection between these two when they did trade for Devontae.
You even saw it in the red zone when they ran that fade, when he didn't have that touchdown. I mean, that's just clockwork for them. They could do that any week. And that's what we thought when we had this situation.
But that's something we've always known about these two guys.
Yes,
it's just you have a myriad of reasons why this team is just sucked this year when it comes to late game leads, blowing those, defense coming up short in big moments, Rodgers coming up short in big moments. That's where I guess you can give the credit to the Jets today is that, hey, it was a late game. Rodgers drives them down the field. They score the touchdown. Arguably, you probably shouldn't have scored the touchdown there. I know Schlereth and them were killing them on the broadcast, and we were talking about it. Like, what the hell are you doing? It's a minute 5 left, minute 8 left. Jacksonville has 2 timeouts. Why are you running the ball straight into the end zone on the first down and first and goal? You could have need the ball 3 straight times. They would have burned their last 2 timeouts. It would have been roughly like 20 to 24 seconds left on the clock. You know what I mean? Or 22 seconds left on the clock with no timeouts for the Jaguars, and they would have had 0 opportunity. Luckily, Mac Jones throws a stupid pass right into Sauce Gardner's breadbasket. Jets seal the win.
You know what? I'll say this about that last drive, right? With our kicking situation and how unlucky we've been kicking this year, honestly, at some point, just take the touchdown. I mean, put it in their hands to score. It was stupid, definitely.
It was stupid, though, considering
but it was a little bit overrated. Like, sometimes if you don't trust your kicker and you don't trust even the snap and the protections, we've had extra points blocked this year. Just score and put it in Mac Jones's hands to come down and seal and tie the game. But
do you not agree?
I don't make too much of a big deal about that, right? To be honest,
I disagree. Considering how bad this season has gone for the Jets and how much they've blown these leads and how much they've continued to just basically melt in the big spots, right? That was another opportunity lining up there with a minute 5 left. You score the touchdown and you're giving the ball to Mac Jones, who's been carving you up all day, and saying, here you go. You got 2 timeouts, minute 5. You and Doug Peterson can drive down the field with Brian Thomas, who we're going to line up in the slot again in the red zone and put some no-name at covering him. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the defense. So listen, the offense is what the story is going to be. Rodgers, Adams, everyone's going to talk about it tonight. Matt McAfee's going to be talking about tomorrow on the show. How about Rodgers and Adams? Those guys, they look like Hall of Famers. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. It's a lost season, 4-10, another year of missed playoffs for the Jets. We're going nowhere fast. We have to hire a new head coach, a new GM, new quarterback, everything. So no one gives a flying shit about this game today, but it's nice to get a win. We'll recognize that. But at the end of the day, this means nothing. This means nothing. It means nothing for draft order. It means nothing for the future. It means nothing. That's all this was today. A meaningless football game in December. Get that straight, Jets fans. It's a meaningless win. It means nothing. It's stat padding, and that's it. Get over it. Now let's focus on what we really saw on the field that really drove me nuts. If you have any doubts about Jeff Ulbrich as a defensive coordinator, you should never fucking hire this guy, because what you saw today was an absolute joke against Mac Jones. Brian Thomas Jr. is one of the best young rookie wide receivers in the NFL. The kid's having a monster season. He's setting records in Jacksonville. You should know, as a head coach / defensive coordinator and a defensive mind, stop lining Chuck Clark in the red zone on third down on the best wide receiver on their team. What the hell are we doing? That's the first mistake you made. Then the second mistake you made on third and goal again. You line up Kendall Sheffield in the slot on third down again in the slot. You don't put Sauce Gardner. You don't put another one of your number 2 corners. You put Kendall Sheffield. After you put a safety on him the first time, he burns you again for a slant route for a touchdown. If there's one person to circle on this offense, and the only person you should worry about, it's Brian Thomas Jr. It's not Evan Ingram's out. It's not Travis Etienne. It's not Tank Bigsby. It's no one on this freaking Jaguars team. They have guys like Brenton Strange, Parker Washington, Devin Duvernay. Are you kidding me? But Brian Thomas Jr. burns you for 2 touchdowns? Jeff Ulbrich should be fired on the spot if they didn't win this football game. That's the truth of the matter. That man is gone. He has 0 clue on how to coach a defense, and he has zero clue how to scheme up a proper defense.
My question to you is this, and we were texting about this during the game. I really wonder how much Robert Saleh really had to do with the play calling defensively, because we've seen the defense really just fall off a cliff. We've seen situations like you're bringing up where we have fourth and fifth corners and even backup safeties playing against their best receiver in man. It's not like it's a bracket coverage. It's one-on-one man. Like, can you stay with Brian Thomas Jr., who had his best game, I think, as a pro?
One of his best. 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both of them came in the red zone on third down in the slot. And you didn't put sauce on any of them.
This defense, as we've been talking about, by the way, they're a little bit hurt. They're a little bit hampered, but I just don't think they believe in what they're doing. I think they're just there. They're in this like bend but don't break mentality. We're fortunate enough to have to play guys like Mac Jones, and it seems like we really haven't played many great offenses this entire season. If
Dude, I laid it out for you. Somehow the Jets are top 10 still in total yards given up. They're top 10 defense.
If you consider the teams we've played in the offenses, it's not surprising at all.
That's what I'm saying. So you got burned by Tua this last week, right? Like they got torched by Tua in that Dolphins offense. He threw for 331 yards. Like they shut down the run, but they got absolutely torched in the secondary, right? That's the one game. Seahawks, they held Geno Smith in check. Geno Smith's not a powerhouse offense. They have a solid offense, but nothing great. Anthony Richardson lit you up, and he's not a good quarterback. The Cardinals blew you out, and that's a good offense. The Texans, you won on Halloween night when C.J. Stroud had no offensive line and no weapons to throw to. Then you faced Jacoby Brissett twice, not world beaters. Russell Wilson, you let beat in his first game this season, right? And their offense has been hit and miss. And then you held Josh Allen somewhat, but they ran the ball down your throat. Frankie, every time they've gone up against a good quarterback, they've not done well defensively.
Yeah,
and in big game situations, defensively, they've sucked. So that's the truth of it all. And that's my takeaway, is that while it was great in a fact of, wow, this is vintage Aaron Rodgers and vintage Davante Adams, in reality, the defense still stinks. The Jets couldn't run the ball because Aaron refused to run the ball, because Aaron controls every single play at the line of scrimmage. Todd Downing doesn't do anything. He just sits there and writes down checks. Oh, we got a screen pass here. We got a play action here. Rodgers does. I'm telling you, everyone, Aaron Rodgers controls everything soup to nuts on this team when it comes to clock situation, game management, no matter what, for going on fourth down. Remember the 4th and 4 when they crossed the 50-yard line? And the Jets and Aaron's trying to do his classic, hike, and he gets the defense to come offside. They call them for a false start, which is total bullshit.
Yeah, in the
Joe
Tippmann
did not have a false. The Jaguars jumped offside. That's why
you could call that, but
no way. But they got him. But again, that's Aaron literally going, no, we're going to do this. This is what we're doing. We're not kicking the field goal. We're not doing any of that. It's just him. It's his team. They're just going to ride the wave the last 3 games with him here and let him stat pad the rest of the way, Frankie.
You want to hear a crazy stat? Rodgers' 45 rushing yards is the 7th most of his career, which is kind of crazy considering that there was a point when he was considered not a scrambler, but somebody that liked to move in the pocket and a little bit outside. But yeah, Rodgers showed everybody today, I can still move a little bit. I could still be that guy at times. He's not padding. Yeah, he's not MVP Rodgers. He's nowhere close to prime Rodgers, but the last couple of weeks he's looked pretty good, but I still think, and to your point, I still don't think there's enough of a flow on offense. There's no real tempo. There's no consistency. It's really just today Rodgers saying, I still got it, and watch what I could do with my buddy Davante. They didn't run the ball at all. There was no script or there was no real consistency overall, man. Like, this is not an offense you're scared of. And they still struggle to score. I mean, we did score 32 points today, so I know Rodgers wanted that one. So we get checked off that list of teams in the NFL that haven't scored 30 plus. But today, the offense played well. I would say the defense okay, but this draft stuff, and I know we're going to get into some offseason stuff now, but it's going to affect your draft position.
It's not.
At the end of the year, we'll
It's
look
not.
at this win, and it'll be the difference between us drafting 6th.
I just told you, dude.
8th.
You're currently 8th. You dropped one spot. No one ahead of you, no one behind you is going to catch you.
But it matters towards the end of the year.
First off, do you think they're winning another game this year with the Rams?
I think they'll win another game.
You think they're going to win one of 3 against the Bills, the Rams, or the freaking Dolphins?
I think so. I think we're going to get one more win.
No chance. You're out of your mind. There's no way. Not the way this defense is playing.
I think we'll win one more.
No, I'll bet you $5 we don't win a game the rest of the season. $5? Defense played horrible again today.
That $5?
$5. Done. Shake on it.
Shake.
Jets are not winning another friggin' football game. They're going to finish 4-13. And if they follow my record here, 4-13, again, there is no one in front of or behind them that's going to catch them. Everyone else has one more win than them. It's Chicago, and they have the strength of schedule record tiebreaker over them. They're going to be top 10, Frankie, if not top 8 guaranteed this year. So I don't know where you're thinking that they're going to hurt their draft position. And let's not forget, this is a terrible quarterback class. So I don't know what the hell you think we're going to draft here in the top 5 that's going to be a perennial all-star, like all NFL player here. I don't know where you think we're going to be drafting.
Well, we'll get more into it, but I have my top 3 players that I want for the Jets. It's Shador, not going to happen. Cam Ward, I would love it, probably not going to happen. And Abdul Carter, I would love him at edge. Those are my top 3.
The Jets aren't a bottom 3 team, though. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
But we'll wait for the process to happen. You don't know what's going to happen with maybe a Jalen Milroe, Drew Aller. Those guys are not going top 10. No way. Quarterbacks shoot up, Ryan. No, they shoot up randomly. You don't really know yet.
No way. I'm telling you, this is one of the worst quarterback classes I've ever seen. It's going to be terrible.
Not look good.
Like teams are going to be reaching at 1 and 2 already for these quarterbacks. You don't want to be picking top 5 here. I'm just telling you right now. This is one of those years where you just let the board fall your way and just pick the best player. That's the way I would attack it this year. But we can't get too far into that. I would stop worrying about the damn draft position. They're not going anywhere. They're not winning any more football games, the Jets. They're not going to drop any further in this draft order. They're picking top 10 guaranteed. I will bet you another $5 on that one if you really think they're going to fall out of it. Because mind you, if they win, they're falling out of the top 10 then. So you think they're going to fall out of the top 10?
No, I don't.
Okay, so again, I don't know where you're getting this, where the Jets are going to be hurting.
I think they're going to finish 5-12.
What? They're winning 2 out of the last 3 games?
One more, right?
One more. Sorry. They're
yeah. We're going to go 5-12, and we're going to be picking 8th. And I think if we were
picking 8th right now,
4-13, we'd be picking 5th.
You have one of these teams, the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Browns, the Patriots, one of them winning another game?
It's right. Remember we were talking about that Samini piece that if they lose out, they're going to be picking in the top 3?
I'm telling you, Frankie,
that's not happening now.
That's not happening, but I'm telling you right now, these teams are all worse than the Jets. They're all worse than the Jets.
But don't you think, too, the Jets are also in a position to kind of transition now? Don't you think they're also in a position where they could have traded one of those picks? Like they could trade a top 5 pick in the first round if they had it, or in the second round?
Why are you going here? Why are you going here?
Right, you never know, man. You got to stack up
assets. No, hang on. We're going way too freaking far. Now you're talking about draft strategy on trading. Listen.
Well, I'm saying just having the higher pick is more valuable than not. Can we agree on that?
We all agree on it, but the Jets were never going to finish top 5. I'm just telling you right now, they were never going to finish.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
That season was never. This was a middling season. Like, let's be real. They're what? Now they're 1-7 in 1-score games this year. Like, if 3 more of them go their way, they're picking in the 15 range, dude. Like, come on, man. They're not a bottom 5 team. The Jets were never going to pick top 5. That's a pipe dream if you really thought that. The Jets defense.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just a football game. That's the end of the day.
We're playing tankathon here, so I'm playing the other side.
All right, so let's talk about real Jets news then. Let's talk about the fact that the Jets, while they get a win today, we really need to talk about the headlines they created. So we heard the news that Bill Belichick took the UNC job this week. He had this intro press conference. They were all about it. And then we get the news that apparently Bill Belichick had contacted the Jets to see what they were doing and what they were planning on doing with their opening at head coach and GM. And apparently Bill expressed he has interest in that job. Frankie, how should I read this story? Because at most, I'm giving it a total bullshit story. The Jets were never going to hire Bill Belichick. Let's be real.
I'll tell you this, and this is something that I know. Bill Belichick was not getting a lot of interest for NFL jobs.
Oh, yeah. No.
So with that came his team and his process as to vetting out potential opportunities. The Jets were a potential opportunity that they saw that could have been available. That wasn't sort of like that desperate card for them because they don't feel like maybe they can get the top guys on the market. So they did reach out. Belichick and his camp did reach out and wanted to inquire about the Jets' head coaching position. And listen, I don't know if it ever could have happened because of the relationship there. Belichick hates the Jets. It's open. He rips them consistently.
He can't stand them. He hates Woody Johnson.
Yeah. But with that being said, I think diligence is important. And given the fact that we're trying to change the culture here, it could have been something maybe the Jets should have tried to inquire about a little bit more or return the inquiry with some sort of meeting or some sort of interview, because Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick. I'm not the biggest Belichick person. I don't think Belichick is, able to come into any situation and just change life overnight. I think he was fortunate with Brady and a bunch of other pieces that they had in New England. However, you know what Bill Belichick does defensively. You know what he does for the culture and what kind of person he is. And the things that he does very well are exactly the things that the Jets don't have from a culture standpoint. I don't know what happened after the fact, but the story's not BS in terms of Belichick reached out or his camp reached out to the Jets.
I'm not doubting that. What I'm calling bullshit is the Jets would even consider something like that. Like, this is a pure PR ploy. Like, oh, let's talk about Bill Belichick reaching out to the Jets. Who gives a flying fuck? Like, I'm being honest with you. I want no part of Bill Belichick with this Jets team. The truth is, Bill Belichick is just as important to the Patriots dynasty as Tom Brady was. That is simpatico. No one can argue it. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Belichick won all of his rings because he had the greatest quarterback in Tom Brady, and Tom Brady won all of his rings because he had the greatest coach in Bill Belichick.
I agree with that.
Plain and simple. So when this man goes on national TV and continues to berate this franchise, and he quit on them. He quit. Don't forget that, Frankie. He quit on the Jets.
He resigned on a napkin.
And he burns Woody Johnson. And mind you, I don't mind burning Woody Johnson. The guy's a terrible owner. He's one of the worst, if not the worst owners in the football league. But I don't need to see Bill Belichick on TV tell me how bad the franchise is run. I already know it, and you already know it. So if you've gone out of your way to burn this franchise so many times, Bill Belichick, you have no place and no right to even express interest in this Jets job because you don't deserve it. That's the truth.
I agree to an extent, but I also think if we take the past and put it to the side and
he's a dinosaur.
I'm just saying, if we forget about the history between Belichick and the Jets and we just look at it in a vacuum, in a current day situation, what could Belichick bring to the Jets? Hypothetically, it makes sense. It's the same reason why people want Mike Vrabel, and he's not my top candidate. He's in my top 5, but not at the top. It's the same stuff that Belichick does. Belichick's a better head coach, I would say, than Mike Vrabel, wouldn't you?
No.
You don't think so? Okay.
No.
I don't know if many people would agree with you there. For the Jets, maybe.
That's fine. I think people need to realize what Bill Belichick was without Tom Brady. You saw it in New England, what he did.
That is true. However,
take away the great. But Tom Brady won a Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's never won shit without Tom Brady. Recognize that, honor that, and believe that. Tom Brady's not playing for the Jets. And mind you, Bill Belichick's not finding the next Tom Brady. He's not. He ran into dumb luck with Tom Brady drafting him.
He did keep him on the roster as a 4th quarterback, though. And when Drew Bledsoe was back from injury, Bill Belichick was one of the few that wanted to stay with Brady. So give him a little credit there. I'm with you for the most part that Brady helped out Belichick in every way, especially offensively. But give Belichick a little bit of credit in terms of his stern ways and how he sort of changed
But that's
a
not
franchise that was really in the dumps for a long time in New England.
What do you mean
not saying
for a long time?
Bill
Bill Parcells brought them to the Super Bowl. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he did.
It was before Belichick.
But Parcells is another great coach. I'm saying,
Parcells is the greatest coach. You could argue. A lot of people would argue that
he's one of them. I just think Ryan, listen, who's going to be whoever our head coach is going to be. Let's say when this process is over, I'm just saying you're going to look at our head coach that we hire and then say, would you rather have that person or Belichick? I don't know. We'll see. I know Belichick's old and he's got his ways. I mean, listen, he sent UNC a 400-page Bible, organizational Bible, to sign off on within freaking 24 hours before he took the job. That's how he is. So I don't think he fits in the modern day NFL. However, I do think there could have been more than just, an inquiry by Belichick and then us saying we're not interested at all. I think you could have sat down if it could have even gone there. I don't know anything other than that, Belichick's camp had inquired about the position. That's all I know.
Yeah. And he inquired about a lot of positions. And that's why I don't understand why this is a story. He inquired about a lot of NFL jobs. Yeah. And guess what? All of them said, click. We want nothing to do with you, Bill. You're old. You're antiquated. You're a dinosaur. You don't relate to the players. And your system doesn't work anymore. That's the truth. That is the truth. He literally got ran out of the NFL because he coached himself out of the NFL. He lost the command of the locker room because his ways are so damn old and no one respects them. No one. He might do better with the younger players because they're so young and immature and they've never had this kind of disciplinarian coach before, right? Because you could do that with them at a younger age. But these are NFL professionals. These are guys who are getting paid millions of dollars to play football. And if you're not going to respect them and treat them the way they should be treated, you're going to get kicked out of the league, and that's exactly what happened. He disrespected the number one quarterback in the NFL history in Tom Brady, dude. He disrespected him. He outright released him. Dude.
Yeah, the thing is, though, why I'm saying that it could have been interesting, I texted you during the game. Do you remember what Schler said about the Jets? He goes, they are selfish, they're undisciplined, and they, commit the most penalties in football. If there's one thing that Belichick could help culture-wise in New York is those different aspects, is getting guys to not be selfish, be more about the team, getting them disciplined, getting them accountable. I'm just saying, I'm not gung-ho on Belichick. I honestly, he wouldn't be my number one choice. But for Jeff fans to just say, oh, I wouldn't want anything to do with him, look at his record without Brady, after they kicked our ass for how many years? We were at their mercy for how long? That head coach's mercy? I mean, I don't know. But what I do know is you can't discount Bill Belichick as a head coach, right?
I mean, again, I think people give him all the benefit. I don't know. I told you how I feel. I'm not gonna keep going back and forth with you. I don't think he's that great of a coach. I think he's a great disciplinarian. His record speaks for itself, and without Tom Brady, it's 84 and 103. He's almost 20 games under 500 without Tom Brady.
That's pretty alarming.
That's very alarming.
Yeah, if you don't give him a good offense or a quarterback, he'll struggle anywhere, I think. So
he put a special teams coach as the offensive coordinator. Come on, man. You don't know football if you're doing that. You put Matt Patricia, a defensive coordinator, as an offensive coach. What are you talking about? He tries to. This is what I'm saying. Bill Belichick thinks he's smarter than everyone else. And while he's very smart, I know he is. Dude, it's not that complicated. Why are you doing things like that? That's my problem. And that's why he got ran out of the NFL, because no one wants to give control to an old senile man that thinks he's smarter than everyone else. I'm sorry. That's the truth.
Ryan, we have two things, though, we have to solve with this head coach and GM search, right?
Discipline.
There's two elements here.
Oh, mind you, 2022, Bill Belichick's Patriots were top 8 in the NFL in penalties.
Interesting. Yeah, there's two things going on here. We have to fix the culture with the disciplinarian, and we have to fix the offensive strategy and the game planning and the coaching
100%.
Offensively. So two things. I think Belichick, and not to get into, I'm just saying Belichick, I think could do one, maybe not the other. I'd like someone that can do both, but
Mike Vrabel.
I don't know if he would be able to do it offensively.
He can bring in any offensive mind, man.
If he does,
he's hired some of the best in the NFL, man. He found LaFleur. He found LaFleur. People forget about that. He found Mike LaFleur.
Yeah, he did.
Matt LaFleur. Sorry, Matt LaFleur. I always get them confused, Mike and Matt.
Yeah. No, he did find Matt.
He found Matt LaFleur.
He did struggle with his
Matt LaFleur's a
offense,
top 5 coach in the
end.
NFL.
And when they got rid of AJ Brown to get
that wasn't his fault. So let's flip the switch here. Now let's go to the other part. So the other Jets news today, and good segue here, Frankie, is that they're going to start their GM interviews this week, right? So we got the news that they're going to interview John Robinson, former Titans GM, and Louis Riddick, ESPN personality, former front office personnel. I've worked with Louis Riddick. I can give you my opinion on that if you want, but let's talk about John Robinson.
You're a big shot, man. You work with everybody. It's unbelievable.
I've worked with a lot of guys. I'll tell you about Louis in a second, but let's talk about John Robinson there. Let's stick to that point with Vrabel, right? John Robinson put together one of the best rosters in the NFL during his tenure with the Titans. He had the second most wins in the span when he was the GM of the Titans in the NFL. His record speaks for itself, and the roster was top 5 in the NFL during his stretch. He found guys like Derrick Henry. Fine, but he drafted Derrick Henry. He drafted A.J. Brown. He developed and found a lot of good players for that Titans team. But at the end of the day, like all good GMs and coaches, you wear out your welcome. You start having some more misses. And the big miss and mistake he had was trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles. And that really spun the tires, and the Titans just missed the playoffs the following year. They fired Robinson right away. It all just completely came crashing down. What do you think about John Robinson as a candidate for the Jets?
I like him. And to add on to what you were saying, he was a regional scout for the Patriots before that. So he comes from a really good system where they know how to find and develop talent, bring in players that could develop. He's got a similar background, ironically enough, to our old GM and Joe Douglas. If you look at his history, he never had a losing record year by year with Tennessee, which is important. He's the second winningest GM for them. Like you said, he drafted Derrick Henry's, AJ Brown, Kevin Byard, who I love, Jeffrey Simmons. I'm just worried a bit about, again, it comes down to quarterback and their ability. I mean, Tennessee was trying for a long time to find a quarterback. That's someone that they can kind of, hang their hat on and hope for. And I don't think he ever was able to do that. I think that and AJ, and that's why AJ wanted to leave at a point. AJ's very conscious, as you're seeing now with this Jalen Hurts stuff that he's going through. AJ wants the ball, and AJ wants great quarterback play.
He's a diva.
Yeah, he absolutely
like a lot of wide receivers.
Yeah, so I don't really blame him for trading him. But
yeah, I don't blame him for trading him, but it was a terrible decision to trade him. You should have gave him the money he wanted, because when you have a true number one wideout like A.J. Brown, who's a freak athlete and a freak talent, you keep him. You pay him what he wants. Like, that's the part I think you're hinting towards a little bit. Like, negotiations when it comes to these players, these big-time players, you can't cave in, right? But also at the same time, you kind of have to when it's the big ones, right? It's the big fish. And that's
but they can never find a quarterback. That's where it all starts, right?
I agree, but also they got top 10 quarterback play from Ryan Tannehill. You look at the stats, the dude was in total touchdowns when he came to rushing and passing. He was top 10 in the NFL during that stretch where they went to the playoffs. Had some
good runs there
That's what I'm saying. So like they paid him. They paid him well. He just eventually turned back into a pumpkin. Like, Ryan Tannehill had a nice stretch there, but he's not that great of a quarterback. He was solid for what they needed. And that's what impressed me, that John Robinson was able to build a team that went to the AFC Championship game. Vrabel is a good disciplinarian. He recognizes good coaching, right? He recognizes good talent. John Robinson kind of interests me, man, if the Jets want to go down that path.
I wonder if he comes here because the Jets said it, and this was a report from ESPN. They don't know if they're going to go GM first or head coach. It's undecided at the point.
That's so wild to me.
Yeah, Schefter reported that, like, they don't know if they're going to go one or the other. They're just going to look for the best people, which I understand. If you really like a head coach, hire them. If you like a GM, hire them, and then figure it out after. But
I hate that strategy, man. That's the Idzik.
You want to hire the GM first. Ideally.
That's the Bowles-McCagnon method, man.
Yeah, but you know what, Rye, we're in a peculiar position where we don't have the luxury to wait and see because candidates may be off the board. So if we wait for the GM, we might miss out on a coach that we like. Let's say we do like
AJ
a
Brown just
Liam
caught a touchdown.
Cohen. Huh?
AJ Brown just caught a touchdown.
Oh man. On cue.
No, I agree.
Baller.
I agree with what you're saying, though. Sorry, Frank. I know I'm interrupted there, but I hear you on the part that you were talking about with if you decide to wait on the right GM candidate, it could burn you, right? Because
Yeah.
like then you might be losing out on head coaching candidates because there's going to be 8 openings, maybe 9 possibly in the NFL this year. So there's gonna be a lot of jobs. So if you really wanted to shoot for the Mike Vrabels of the world, you might lose out on him if you're waiting to, interview other GM candidates once the season's over. So I hear you, but I also, in my opinion, the best run organizations let the GM pick the head coach because that's the way it should flow. The GM should be making all the decisions. They should be making personnel, staff, scouting, who's the coach, and then the coach will tell you who the assistant coaches are. That's the way it should be run. That's my opinion.
Yeah, my other opinion too on this whole matter is how high of a ceiling do you want and how low of a floor? Because like I think John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, I think will have a higher floor, but might have a lower ceiling. So I think that like that operation in year 3, 4, 5 will get you to the playoffs. Will get you 10 wins. Maybe you could make some magic happen. I'm leaning towards not going that direction, although it's probably what we need because we just keep trying things that don't work. So maybe just get a more established, experienced crew back there. But I want to shoot higher. I'd rather have some system where it's a more offensive-minded head coach, a very good OC, and then a GM who's kind of thinking differently about the game. John Robinson's going to come in and he's going to think like GMs think, and he's good at what he does, like Mike Vrabel is as a head coach. So that's something the Jets are going to have to figure out. You could do both. I mean, you could kind of have a GM who's thinking differently and then a head coach who's kind of been established and knows what they're doing, but not really doing anything outside the box. I think the Jets have to go completely outside the box on a bunch of things, man. But it could crash and burn. And that floor is really low if you do something like that.
No, I agree. It's just I'd be all in for the John Robinson, and I if he wanted to bring in a Vrabel, I think that could be killer. I think it could be awesome and exactly what the Jets need. Just old school football, like you said, disciplinarian, gives a method of established winning ways. The other thing though is that Louis Riddick was the other guy that they're going to be interviewing apparently. Now, I worked with Louis for almost 5 years. Man, that guy knows football. I hate that he's not in the NFL right now. Like, he should have a job. I've said it. A lot of people have said it. I've worked with one of the nicest, most professional people you could ever meet when it comes to TV. And every time he just opens his mouth and just talks football with you, you learn something. And he opens your eyes and he commands the room. And he has that aura about him when he walks in the room. And I have so much respect for Louis Riddick, and I would love, and I mean this in all sincerity, no bias at all, I would love for the Jets to hire him because that man has been dying to be a GM for a long time. He's done his diligence. He's done the work. He is up to date on everything when it comes to the game, when it comes to what's offensively working, what's not working, defense, how that should be built. He's a former safety, played in the league. I'm telling you, he'd be a home run hire. It's just unfortunate how he just hasn't gotten a job. I don't know how he hasn't gotten a job because he's so damn smart. I'm being dead serious. Like, Louis Riddick is so smart. I'd be all in for either one of these guys. And I don't know much about these other candidates. That's the funny part. Like, I know about John Robinson. I know about Louis Riddick, but I don't know about Mike Borgonzi. I don't know what he's done as an assistant GM. You hear some of these other names. Like, I'm like, what has that guy done? Like, what's his experience been like? So it's just, both these guys have experience, and I know a little bit about like what they've done. We've seen what they've done. So that's just my 2 cents on Louis Riddick.
Well, you sold me on Louis Riddick right there. I don't know much about him from a football's perspective outside of what you see, what he says on TV. I know he's worked in front offices before. He sounds intelligent. Again, I'm a little concerned at his experience because he's never been a GM, obviously. Right. But again, to what we were just saying, or what I was just saying about think differently. Maybe he's someone that just brings a new, fresh, different approach to the game, and he might be able to bring in some players that are could do different things here, especially offensively. So you kind of just sold me with that. I kind of like that little rundown. I'm kind of feeling Riddick now.
Listen, man, like the guy kills it on the draft. He watches tape on all of these guys that come out of the draft. So he scouts the hell out of these players. He knows, like he finds a lot of these guys that end up being stars. Like he's told us in draft meetings, like, watch this guy, watch what he does in the NFL, watch where he goes in this situation. So
the thing there, though, is, Ryan, that's just one part of being a
correct.
GM. The negotiation side,
correct.
The trading side. I mean, contracts. I mean, it's just, there's more to it. But that, I think, is the most important side. Can you find talent that can properly develop?
Yep. Those are the two key words right there. Talent and develop. That's what they need. That's what this Jets franchise need. Frankie, any final thoughts as the Jets get their fourth win of the season of the Jaguars, 32-25? We talked about the Belichick rumors. We talked about the GM search and how that's beginning this week. Anything else, man?
Man, I just wish we still had some playoff chances, man. If we even had like 0.1%, I'd be all in. We don't have any playoff chances. We're at 0 now. Damn it. This team, what they could have done, man. And I think they could have gotten to the Super Bowl, dude. Like, they're looking for. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. No, but you know what? Listen, at the end of the day, the team's playing better, and it's taken us this long. And I still think their coaching is the worst that I've ever seen. Honestly, out of any team I've ever rooted for, I think it's the worst, most talented team of all time. Literally. They've underachieved with as much talent as they've had.
The most disappointing team, that's for sure.
I blame the coaching staff. And I think if these guys and our offensive line specifically has elements, specifically on offense, with a new system next year, I think we could be a lot better and actually freaking be in the hunt, which we never are. But I think next year could be interesting, depending upon the head coach and GM. But Rye, you're the GOAT, as always.
Appreciate you, man. That's a show. Thank you all the fans who are watching. Jets get their fourth win of the season over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 32-25. For Frankie Vinariti, I'm Ryan Sampson. That's the Gangzone here post-game live show. We'll catch you next time. And as always, Jets fans,